Hello, this is Stefan Eveleth, and we're just going to take a look at the whistleblower Tony Menendez. Tony Menendez followed the IMA's steps to resolve an ethical conflict, and he found that he ended up finding during his time at Halliburton. So here's what happened and how he did it. So basically, a little background. Tony Menendez worked as the Director of Technical Accounting and Research at Halliburton. He was the first one to kind of find an error in the way they were accounting for bill and hold revenue under the revenue recognition under U.S. GAAP, and it ended up being quite a bit of money that they would have been the error, billions of dollars, since they had been accounting it this way since the new revenue recognition took place in 1999, and it was now 2005. So it would have led to a lot of restatements of financial statements. He brought it to his bosses, and initially they agreed, but they ended up not taking any action and knowingly committing fraud. And so he had to exhausted all his internal resources and then had to reach out externally, and even went through a long court process. So how did he do the steps? Step one, he exhausted through all the internal panels he had available to him. He immediately reached out to his immediate supervisor, who was Mark McCollum, the chief accounting officer, and he brought that to his superiors and the other top executives of the company, and they initially agreed, as we said before, but they dragged their feet in taking any action, and seeing how big the consequences might be, they decided that everything should actually be fine and that they needed to do nothing. At this point, Menendez didn't agree with them, and so he had to start reaching out he reached out to the audit committee for the board of directors through email, and they ended up citing him in a name and launching an internal investigation. But that internal investigation ended up coming up with nothing and clearing the company, and also showing his name as the person who's suggesting they're committing fraud. At this point, he had to reach out to the SEC, and he filed a confidential claim. But even the SEC decided not to investigate, and he reached out confidentially to an advisor, which was the SEC, as he was supposed to do, and they ended up sharing his name as well to the company that he had been reaching out, accusing them of committing fraud, but they did not do an actual investigation. And so he left the company, and then immediately hopped into the last step, which is reaching out to legal counsel and tracking down his legal obligations, and feeling kind of betrayed by the company and the SEC. He filed a whistleblower claim and started to bring forth some of his findings and recordings he had started to accumulate. And it took a very long time, almost 9 years, and it went through many court appeals. But in the end, he was able to be awarded $30,000. The courts agreed with him that, one, the company was wrong, and two, that he was guiltless in the way he blew the whistle. In the end, I think overall, Tony Menendez did everything he could internally. He reached out to the executives, the board of director audit committee, but due to the executives being the top brass and receiving all the information from the fraud and internal structures, there was nothing being done. And when he reached out to his confidential advisor, which was the SEC, and they did nothing, obviously he had to take it a step further, and it took a lot of determination and more courage to stick it out that long, even when the SEC wouldn't step in. And due to that failure of the SEC stepping in, I think it shows why they have all three steps in there, to exhaust everything you have before you take legal action, and then stick to it if you get to that point. So I think he did a really good job at following the steps. Thank you.